What's going on there, guys? We back with another one. And Shedeur Sanders, man, not getting drafted on the first night. He dropped from a $45 million value pick all the way down to $11 million. And that would be if he was taken in the second round. But as the second round is winding down, it looks like he's not even going to be taken in that round as well. So we're gonna have to wait a little longer for Shedeur. Now, a lot of pundits is coming out and they're giving their piece, including Ocho, Ryan Clark, Maurice Clarett, Emmanuel Acho. We're gonna get into what these guys had to say about what's going on and how maybe there's some collusion going on against Coach Prime and his family. They are getting a message to Coach Prime by penalizing Shedeur Sanders, is what many is saying. And I think when we saw the Tyler Shough pick, it got a little bit ridiculous, guys. But let's go. Let's check out what these guys had to say.
It's not like it's out of the realm of possibility.
This has been a collective effort. Media, GMs, owners, for the simple fact they allowed.
So is it because his last name Sanders? That's what you're saying?
There's no other reason. There's no other reason.
I mean,
Just turn the film on.
I want my quarterback confident, because if he doesn't have that, he can't play. I don't care what his skill set is.
I
you got to
agree.
have confidence. You just have to believe. Look, in pro sports, you have to believe you're the baddest mofo out here, and I'm here for a reason.
Unnamed sources or a person doesn't have the courage to say, hey, this is me and this is what I'm saying about you. Because you tend to be a little bit more slanderous when you want to hide your name. And you just tend to talk a little crazier when you don't have to reveal yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I'll say that, and that's just with anybody and anything. That's one. But two is just not necessary. You know what I mean? But I think this goes back to why people feel that this becomes a personal attack, be it to the father or be it to the family. And there are some people who probably seen what was going on in Colorado and seen all the celebrities it brought out and all of the fame and all of the adulation. And people do have old malice and old hate in their hearts. And so I'm pretty sure whoever this person is, if they can't get at you, they'll get at somebody next to you just to stop the wave that you're creating. You know what I mean? And this may have been that. So that's just my take on that. But we're not avoiding, but people just hate what was going on in Colorado. People hate Deion's path. People hate that he went out there and caught a whole wave. People hate that he signed his contract. People hate that he got his one son following him around with a camera. People hate that he didn't go through the traditional coaching path. People hate that he got his son. People hate that he took Travis Hunter from somewhere else. People hate that he influenced Deshaun Jackson, Michael Vick, and all these other dudes to get into coaching. People hate it, bro. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of it. Deion won't get into that conversation, but I'm pretty sure after hours, if we was out there kicking it on the ranch and he was just, shooting the bobo, you know what I'm saying? He'd be like, yeah, that's what they hate. And this is a prime example. Cam just gave one to Felly Fail. People hold on to that. And so if you got a dude who didn't, for lack of better terms, he's been out here and he's been in the coaching industry and he had to go be a GA, and that's the first step that you take to get in the game. And then you go from there and you grabbing coffee and making donuts and all this other stuff. People hate if you circumvent that whole process.
Now, before we get Acho and Ryan Clark's perspectives on what's going on, I want to say one thing about what Maurice Clarett said. And I hadn't thought about this portion of it, but how Coach Prime has influenced a whole different coaching ecosystem, whether it be Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, all those names that he named going to the HBCUs, working their way up. In the era of NIL, I think that's smart to bring in those type of faces, to get guys who probably may even have talent above that level at times, being able to get them to come in and play under you because you can get them to their ultimate goal. Um, but he brings up an interesting point. A lot of these guys are going through the regular coaching route and having to do things to be up under people at certain levels. And Coach Prime is showing no, you can do this thing with knowledge of the game. Now, I do want to say Coach Prime coached at the high school level. It ain't like he just took a college job. He was coaching Prime Prep. What is that? What it was called? High school, and then he coached at Jackson State. He did coach his way up. So I do want to say that. But yeah, people holding some animosity and resentment towards him And Shedeur is the prime target for that. Obviously, we knew Shallow wasn't going, in the first few rounds, but Shedeur, there was a time where he was mentioned as the top pick. So it looks like the media as well as coaches, and we saw a lot of coaches speaking out as anonymous, take their shots at Shedeur, and it has effectively hurt his draft status around the league. But let's continue.
Hold on, I got to stop my workout for this one. Tyler Shough drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders? What the heck? First off, let me start with this. Tyler Shough's 25. Quarterbacks drafted age 25 or later have not had success in the National Football League. They just haven't. Whether it be Stetson Bennett, Brandon Whedon, Jared Hall, Hendon Hooker, they just haven't done anything in the National Football League. Furthermore, I watched Tyler Shough's tape again. I'm a college football analyst. Dude does have a great arm and dude is confident pre-snap because he's 25. He's seen every defense college can throw at you. He was in college forever. Now, no knock on Tyler Shough, but the dude does not handle pressure well in the pocket. When I think about Tyler Shough and I think about Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Shough is not better than Shedeur Sanders. He's just not. Debate Jackson Dart if you want to. That's a debate worthy of having. But Tyler Shough is not better than Shedeur Sanders. At this junction in time, it's gone too far. Now the question is, why in the world is this happening? From everything I'm hearing from people inside the NFL and people inside the buildings, they do not believe that Shedeur Sanders is worthy of all the attention that comes with Shedeur Sanders. But this is crazy, yo. This is crazy.
You're only worth what people are willing to give you or spend on you.
Every time.
No matter what we think about Shedeur Sanders' tape, no matter what Shedeur Sanders thinks about his tape or what he's put on film to this point, they let him know tonight. 32 teams, right? The Giants twice, the Atlanta Falcons twice, let you know we don't need you. And that's okay. That's their right. Like, that's their job. They are staking their job on the names that they call tonight, right? On the person whose phone they hit up and say, hey, man, are you ready to be? Nobody felt that way about Shedeur Sanders, and he has to own that. That doesn't mean he's not a good football player. That doesn't mean he's not talented. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the potential to be great. But what it meant was these 32 teams don't think you were better than the opportunities that they had to pick other people. And you got to wear that. This is his first bit of public football adversity. And I'm not talking about going to Colorado and playing with a bad offensive line and being on a bad team. Because even through that, he was shining, right? Even through that, he was making plays. You got superstars that are there to see you week after week after week. But that's always been attached to your father, too. And I'm not saying he's only gotten things because of that, but you mentioned Deion's guidance. It hasn't been, I'm your father, I'm going to guide you from afar.
Right.
It's been lockstep every step of the way. This was the first situation Deion Sanders couldn't control.
Yeah. ...
What you gonna do now?
Yes.
How you gonna show up? You supposed to have a chip on your shoulder, but do you show up ready to work? Do you show up with the humility that you gotta show up with now because you're not a first round pick? Do you say, I'm going to prove myself right that I should have been, that I'm as good as Cam Ward or better, that I'm as good as Jackson Dart or better? And what's your attitude while doing it? Everything about Shedeur Sanders pre-draft has been about his personality, been about entitlement, been about being arrogant or not showing humility. Tonight, tomorrow, going forward, that's the time to show humility. That's the time to say, I can't control that, but I can control how I come to work.
The wild thing is the collusion around the league, right? Are they trying to send a message to deter other father-son duos from taking this route? When you have a really talented son, a Hall of Fame dad, that you can guide them only but so far. Is that the message that they're trying to send with Shedeur Sanders? Because I thought for sure, in the second round he'd be taken. Now you could still go and be a good player and all that, but he's losing a lot of upfront money. Hopefully for Shedeur, he locks all the way in, even not it being silly. This may even change his demeanor somewhat, on the field. And I want to see that. Like, I just want to see him come out, be the ultimate professional. Everything that they thinking about him, he kind of dispels any concerns, with that. he likely won't be asked to start day one. So while some people feel like that may be the most negative thing, I'll say it could be a very positive thing, if he's there working hard every day. You're going to have injuries, opportunities, and things like that in the NFL. Now, some people even said, I was watching the draft, they were saying some feel like he's even good enough to take, but he's not worth the headache. What is the headache? All the media attention around when will he be inserted into the starting lineup. Specifically, if a quarterback ahead of him on the depth chart is struggling, do you bring that to the city? Also, his dad, the conversation, any soundbite he delivers is going to be louder than anything probably around the team, right? Um, they saying that too. And also, there was one more thing I want to talk about in regards to that. Oh yeah, the crowd, right? The crowd. Uh, we want Shedeur. We want Shedeur when anything goes bad. That'll kind of be the chance. And do you want that in your organization? I'll say this. I want the talented quarterback. I think Shedeur, when he gets in between those lines, he just goes and plays. And you can't really penalize a guy for that. But at some point, now, I want to say this too, and this has been overlooked. At some point, your business mind is going to have to kick in. Shedeur is going to sell a lot of merch, all eyes on you. Um, Obviously, NFL games come on TV, right? They show them every week, and in your market, you get showed and all that. But Shedeur, man, it's going to be a lot of conversation, a lot of media around him, and it's going to just the buzz, right? I just can't understand. And I know Coach Prime is looking at some of these people like Mike Tomlin, Jerry Jones, some others, that he was down with. He looking at some people with the side eye because you didn't take my son. But at the same time, this is some of the stuff Cam Newton was talking about. How is he going to be when it's not daddy? And it was kind of pushed back on by Shedeur. But here we are, right? These are the way things can go, especially when they colluding against you like this. They want to make an example, prime example out of Shedeur Sanders, and they want to show him who's in charge. They want to show him that his father is not like that. You probably got a lot of coaches saying, "Man, he was this, he was that." Just looking at the way Coach Prime came up through the ranks, they got some feelings towards it, and they holding some animus in their heart, smiling, shaking his hand in his face, and then turning up their nose when he turns around to walk away from the conversation. So, yeah, like I said last night, let this be fuel to the fire, Shedeur. It's a lot of noise right now. Thank God, you come from a wealthy family. Thank God, you were able to amass certain amount of money in college, and NIL deals and all that. Lost a lot of money up front. But you still Shedeur, you still gonna get deals. Um, you got a chip on your shoulder. That could be a part of your brand now. This thing can turn out to be great for you. We just got to see, what happens, what goes on going forward. I'm feeling like they'll take you in the third round somewhere. We just got to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time. Peace.